Hey there, this is Diane Forster, and welcome to I Have Today. This is the show that inspires, empowers, and educates you through life's transitions. And today I have a very special guest in the studio with me. He's coming on shortly. His name is Edmeades, and we are going to be talking about something that's really important to you today. So if you're struggling with type 2 diabetes, obesity, or hypertension, you should know two important things. The first thing is this, that it is not your fault. But the second thing is it is your responsibility to do something about it. So Edmeades' new book, Post-Diabetic, is changing lives in just 9 weeks. We're going to talk all about his book today. So if you or someone you know has pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes, then this is the episode for you. All right, but before we get into that, I want to share with you what the theme of our show is, which is you can reverse diabetes in only 9 weeks. Only 9 weeks. Yes, you can. Doesn't have to be cockamamie crazy diets or taking medication or anything like that. Eric is so talented. I'm going to read more of his bio in just a few minutes. He's an expert in this area, and you actually have the power to do it, and you can do it starting today. All right. So our theme for this show, our intention statement is, I have today to improve my health with manageable changes. I have today to improve my health with manageable changes. It's really simple. It does not have to be complicated. So we're going to talk about that today. You know, I shared with you guys recently, last summer into fall, I dropped 20 pounds in 10 weeks. And it was the simplest thing I've ever done before. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to have Eric on the show today, is to continue to emphasize the power within you to change your life. And the most important thing you want to change is your physical health. It's everything. Now, my father is in the hospital right now. He went into the hospital on Saturday, and he's going to be 86 years old. And my dad lives life large. He travels all over the world. He golfs every week. He's got his regular dance classes, and he's an active 85-year-old man. But he has a growing list of health challenges that are just happening to him. Now, could he take some better care of himself? For sure, he could. But he's currently in the hospital right now. They don't know what it is. They think it's an obstruction in his intestines. So he's tubed up and he's got all this, stuff going on. And what a terrible way to live. And so it reminds me, and it's a reminder to you, that your health is everything and it can change in a moment. And so are there diet things and lifestyle things that my father could be doing? Absolutely. And I know Eric's going to talk a lot about this today. So it just raises the red flag that your health is everything. And it's your body, your one vessel that you are coming to this world with. You have to honor it. You have to take care of it. And you can do it. And you can do it right now. And like Eric says in the book, and he's going to get into it, it is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to do something about it. So I can't wait to have this conversation with him. So, all right, before we bring him on up, I just want to tell you some exciting things that are going on at I Have Today. So we recently had our second event, and we now have 12 hosts who are premiering their TV shows on I Have Today TV. Woo! Which is the first and only women's personal development and transformation television network for women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. That's right, ladies. We are bringing you the goods. We are bringing you the experts in all areas of your life as you are going through major transitions. We're going to help you with health and wellness. We're going to help you with family dynamics. You're dealing with parenting, new relationships, menopause, you name it, career changes, business development, legal issues, all kinds of things. This is going to be your go-to place to go to to get the resources that you need as you are going through transitions in your life. So we've got another exciting event coming up in a couple of months. I'll have more information about that. And the network is literally premiering as we speak. So you'll be seeing more and more about that. Very excited about that. And then other news with me is I'm launching a podcast, and it's called Be a TV Star Host. Yes, I'm launching a podcast about TV hosting. Haha, the irony, right? But that's coming up in just a few weeks, so we'll have more information about that. So what I've been doing with building this network is I've been helping women entrepreneurs, experts, and coaches and consultants take their expertise and turn it into a television show. And why TV? What is the power of TV? Well, someone who's been in the industry for 40 years, had my own show for the last 7. I spent 20 years at ABC. We are doing something that's new, unique, and different. And we are creating a new platform, actually a new industry in television that is about transformtainment. So we know that the old model is dying and that there's nothing but opportunity in the OTT space, and that more and more of you are looking for ways to get more information. You want your minds to be fed. You want inspired action and things that you can do in your life right now to improve your life. And so that's what we're providing for you. So that's what's going on here. All right. And then before we bring up Eric, let me just share with you our intention statement one more time, because I want to share the wallpaper with you. So the intention statement today is, I have today to improve my health with manageable changes. So the team makes a beautiful graphic every single week. There it is right there. It's on my Instagram page, Diane Forster Official. If you hop on over there and go to my profile, you'll see a little button that says intention statements, and that graphic is already there. So what do I want you to do? I want you to take a picture of it and use that screenshot as your reminder for the entire week, that every time you look at your phone, you are reminded that you can do this. And it's through that repetition that you start to rewire your subconscious mind, and you get the reminders, and it gets to allow you to make healthier decisions in your life. So use this resource for this week. So, okay. All right. So let's hear a word from our sponsor, the Spifter, and then we will have Eric Edmeades with us. All right. We'll be right back. This week's episode of I Have Today is brought to you by the Spifter. The Spifter is a fun sifting spoon that makes cooking, baking, and decorating with sugars and spices so much fun. No more mess or wasting your spices. It's fast, clean, and easy. Everything looks and tastes delicious. It's also great for straining loose tea, getting pesky broken cork out of your wine glass, and draining liquid off food like olives and capers. Whether you're a novice cook or a gourmet chef, you'll love the results. The Spifter, the kitchen gadget that no kitchen should be without. All righty, we are here with Eric Edmeades. Hi, Eric, how are you? Oh, wait, I think you're muted. Let's make sure he's not muted, guys.
Apparently I was, but anyway, thanks so much for having me. I'm here, and I think we're going to have fun.
Oh, we're going to have so much fun. Let's do it. All right. Well, let me tell the audience a little bit more about you, because I touched on it, but I want to share a little bit more. Eric Edmeades, a globally recognized keynote speaker, prolific entrepreneur, and recognized authority in health, practical psychology, and behavioral transformation, has made significant strides in the health and wellness industry. His revolutionary program, WildFit, has positively transformed the lives of over 100,000 individuals across more than 130 countries, underscoring his innovative and impactful approach to health. All right. So wait, hold on. Let me get the info about your book. So your new book, Post-Diabetic, is changing lives in just 9 weeks. So it's co-authored with Dr. Ruben Ruiz, a respected medical professional. This book epitomizes this innovative approach, offering a holistic, actionable 9-week plan to tackle the pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. And it integrates Eric's extensive knowledge in nutrition and behavioral psychology, along with Dr. Ruiz's medical expertise. Wow. And I got the book and I'm in the middle of reading it, read it. So many great nuggets in this book. So, all right. So my first question to you, Eric, is why this book? Why now?
I have to say, largely by accident. What I mean by that is that when I first started working with people on their relationship with food, my real goal was simply to help people feel better, to have a better relationship with food, to not live with guilt, and generally speaking, to have more energy and be more productive. And what ended up happening was that many of our clients would report back to us like, hey, I'm no longer diabetic, and my doctor is confused because largely doctors are taught that diabetes is a chronic condition that must be managed for life. And all of a sudden they were transitioning out. And this happened so regularly that we started doing some research into what was causing it, what about our program was creating that reality. And but then a number of things aligned, and a big part of it was that Ruben Ruiz was who is the co-author, was a type 2 diabetic on 10 prescription medications, hypertensive, 40 pounds overweight, and he went through one of our programs and lost all that weight, got off 9 of his 10 medications, reversed his diabetes and hypertension, and then he contacted me. He said, "I'm a doctor and I don't know how to do this. How do we get this message out to the world?" And it was really at his behest that we sat down and figured it out and co-authored the book. And I'm indebted to him for giving me the kick in the pants and for helping us get the message out.
Well, I mean, it's so needed and it's so amazing. And when you have the living proof right there, and it's like, hey, let's break this down and let other people do it. So what you said in the book initially is, it's not your fault. And so what do you mean? Yeah, let's talk about that, because I 100% agree. It's not, but I want you to share what exactly that means.
I think, if we start with why people think it's their fault, the reason that people think it's their fault is that there's a sort of pervasive idea in society that if you see somebody who's overweight or say they're dealing with a lifestyle disease, that, well, if they just, after all, it is a lifestyle disease. If they just ate a little less and moved a little more, they wouldn't have this problem. And that idea that is very pervasive in our culture was a bought and paid for marketing by the food industry. It initially started by the soft drink industry because they saw that people were becoming calorie phobic. They were like, people don't want calories. So before creating 0 calorie chemical concoctions, before that, the approach was to make people feel okay about the calories they were consuming. So it's like, well, if you just went for a run, if you just went for more bike riding, you could outrun the calories. And so this started to create a shift, and the shift of responsibility from the food industry onto the consumer. And this was the same shift the tobacco industry did. The tobacco industry called lung cancer a lifestyle disease, which meant that it was your fault if you got it. And of course, what we now know is that the deceptive marketing practices and lobbying activities of big tobacco and big food have completely changed what we think we know about food and affected what food is even manufactured, and of course, how we're educated about it. And so I see somebody now who say, carrying extra weight, or they're type 2 diabetic, or they have a lifestyle disease, then that is my message. It is not your fault. This was done to you. Now, it is your responsibility, though, because nobody else is ever going to take the responsibility, for your health that you are. No doctor cares as much about how you feel as you do. And so while it isn't your fault, there's only one person that can fix it.
So true. And we need to be empowered by that. And it's hard because we are bombarded by 70,000 impressions a day being told that we're not enough. There's something wrong with you. Right. So that makes it more challenging. So, okay. So with that it is our responsibility, where does somebody start?
Well, I think that the first thing is, let's talk about where not to start, and where not to start is by making any number of the incredible mistakes that people make when they go on traditional diets. Like, here's an example. Calorie restriction is the idea. So if we just restrict the calories, then we'll lose the weight. Well, there's some basic math that's correct about that, but biologically it's not necessarily correct. And also it means low grade starvation, which means suffering. It means that somebody's going to have to suffer to get there. And so that means they're not really going to stick with it. As we know, the average person goes on 2 diets a year through their adult lifetime, and they stick to each one for about 6 or 7 days. So if we start the diet based on a principle of pain, well, people are going to fail. And then when they fail, well, then we have to blame them for failing. People don't fail diets, diets fail people. So the first issue is, no, it's not about calorie restriction. No, it's not about giving up your favorite foods forever. No, it's not about outrunning your calories. And no, it's not about supplements and all this kind of stuff. It's about really understanding the human evolved relationship with food, and then doing the best we can to improve our relationship with food so that we don't ever have to go on a diet again.
Mm-hmm. Improve it for sure. Yeah. Okay. So what happens? Okay. It's over 9 weeks. So what's week 1 look like? What is that? Where do we start with that?
Well, what I'll say is this, that, the way to do this incorrectly for people is to basically give them a set of rules, even if they're good rules, and say, now start following these rules from day one. And so many years ago, I produced, a matter of fact, during the pandemic, I produced a video program with Mind Valley called The Immunity Blueprint. And the idea was that, look, at that stage, there were no vaccines and treatments available, and everybody was freaking out about this virus running around the world. And what I was trying to say to people is, well, look, irrespective of what other prophylactic methods come along, your immune system is the last line of defense. And so I developed this Immunity Blueprint program. As I was developing it, I found that one of the doctors that I follow had also written a book on immunity. So I was curious. I'd already created mine, but I thought I'll check out his to see how much overlap is there. And you know what? Total overlap. We were very much teaching the same things, but there was a big difference. And that was that he had this 21-day immunity challenge book, and I had my 21-day immunity blueprint. Sounds very similar, except that it was, here are the things you have to do for 21 days, which means that most people won't even make it to the second day. Yeah. And so we use a system called behavioral change dynamics, which involves incremental transformation, step-by-step education and transformational information. That means that somebody's self-esteem is growing throughout the program. So, in our 9-week plan, and I should say this, when we say that type 2 and prediabetes are reversible in 9 weeks, we mean in the vast majority of cases. It's because we don't regard it as a disease. We regard it as a repetitive stress injury that when you fix the imbalance that caused it, the body tends to go back to normal function. And so what do we do in the first week? Well, in the first week, we start with psychology. It is all about psychology. If you think you're going to willpower your way through weight loss, well, good luck. That does not seem to be working. I've looked around, right? But if in the first week we can really unlock some of the childhood linkages that you've created to food and the beliefs that you've created about food and the hijacking of your subconscious that the food industry is, you deserve a break today. If they've bought slogans in our brains, we can deframe all of that, which we do in the first week. Then we immediately empower people to move toward food consciousness. Then we move through a week by week series of incremental improvements that are a matter of adding in more of the good stuff and slowly taking a good look at the relationship we have with the bad stuff and evaluating what relationship we really want to have. And through the course of that, also doing a very important thing, and that is metabolic reset. Diabetes is a metabolic condition. It is basically, in the most, in the simplest description, it's your body getting stuck in one metabolic mode and then losing its ability to even run that metabolic mode properly. That's the metabolic mode of burning sugar. It gets stuck in burning sugar, and then it starts getting bad at it, and then you're pre-diabetic.
That's so good. Wow, that's so true. I'm so glad you mentioned the behavioral change dynamics, because I was going to ask you. So that's what it is. And I think it's where it starts. I know for me, I said at the beginning of the show, I lost 20 pounds I released 20 pounds last year in only 10 weeks. And of course I started with my mind. It was 100% my mindset first. It's so important. And I think that is one of the most empowering things anyone who's watching or listening to this can understand about it. It's not about cutting the carbs, and it's not about the, stringent external stuff that you will make those changes. You have to start with the mindset first.
Absolutely. No question about it.
And a belief that you can do it, because we're, we typically, not everybody, but we tend to think, oh, the other shoe's going to drop. Every time that something positive starts to happen, like we've heard a million times, one step forward, two steps back. And so there's all this playing in our minds. So being able to really identify with a person who is healthy, who can love good food and make changes in their life, who can remove the word diabetes from their vocabulary. Like, that's something, if they're living that way, it's such an integral part of their language and who they are, right?
Yeah, it is. And that brings up even the title of the book, and that is that language has tremendous power to influence our self-esteem, our behaviors, our decisions. And so what happens right now is that, first of all, when somebody is given a sentence, when they're told, hey, you're diabetic, the way that's typically delivered these days is that, well, you're now diabetic. This is your new identity. So your life will involve medication and circulatory problems, probable amputations, loss of eyesight, huge risk factor for cancer and heart disease. It's just how it is. And, then you get some doctors who are saying, well, it doesn't have to be that way if you just made some improvements to your lifestyle, but no psychological support is provided for that. So the average person is told to go home with willpower and try to fix things. And of course, that's failing horribly. So what we really want to do is take a look at the language of this. And here's a good example. Let's say somebody does manage to turn things around from type 2 diabetes. So they improve their A1C, they improve everything a little bit, they lose a little weight, they're turning things around. Now they go to the doctor and they get a bunch of tests. The doctor says, oh, you're pre-diabetic. Well, hold on a minute now. Pre means before. It means on the way to. It means heading toward. You are pre-diabetic, you're heading toward it. And the challenge is that our clients are telling us, but we're trending the other way. And so what we determined from that, and in my conversations with Ruben and other doctors, is that you could have two people that have precisely the same metrics. They have the same measurements, but one of them is trending toward diabetes and the other one is trending the other way. Therefore, they have different conditions and they should be receiving different medical advice. Ergo, we call them post-diabetic. And even once they've recovered fully and they're no longer in the diabetic range at all, we suggest that they're still post-diabetic, because the fact that they had diabetes once before means they're somewhat predisposed toward heading back in that direction if they were to let their lifestyle slide again.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And think about the mindset shift for somebody who hears that. I'm on the road to recovery. I'm on the road to getting better. Wow. That's really, really great. What are some other success stories that you have? What have you seen?
Well, I mean, there's lots of those. One of the things that we work on through WildFit and through the Diabetes Reversal Institute is getting people calibrated with their real motivations. And this is a very important thing about people, because people will come to us and say, I really want to lose some weight, or I want to reverse my diabetes so that I can feel better. Maybe I'll live longer and all that kind of stuff. But very often what we have to do is dive into what we call their deep meanings and their shallow meanings. So the deep meanings are things like, I want to be young and flexible and, stay and have, be healthy into my later years and all that kind of stuff. There's deep meanings. I want to live a more productive, higher quality life. Then there's shallow meanings. It's like, well, I want to fit into this outfit for this special occasion, right? And in our world, we judge those shallow meanings. And what I would say to you is that whatever meaning has the greatest emotional draw to you is the meaning that you need to attach to that moment. So as a very good example, one of my clients, also a good friend of mine, but she went through the program years ago, and she wrote to me and she was telling me about all the benefits she got. She I've got this going on, and my, sex life's improved. My drive is back. My spark is back. All this stuff. And she goes, but between you and me, and since I'm not telling you her name, it's still between her and me, but she goes, between you and me, she goes, the biggest thing is that I wore a two-piece bikini, a two-piece swimsuit to the beach last week for the first time since college. She goes, I know all this other stuff's more important, but that's what really mattered. And so we're really lucky. We get letters like that basically every day from people that have, recovered their diabetic position or lost the weight that they put on when they had their first child and could never get rid of it, or they've smoothed out their emotional experience. That's a very common bit of feedback we get from people. See, when you're in the metabolic mode of preparing for winter, like your body acts a certain way when it's getting ready for like the ancestral reality of winter. And what happens during that season is that our moods become, like, let's say, less predictable, lots of ups and downs. And so one of the most important things that our clients experience is a stabilization of their moods. Like, if anybody's ever had this situation where you're like, your mouth is saying one thing, but there's this little voice in the back of your head going, why are you saying this shit to him? I mean, he's or her, like, why are you, there's that other voice going, what's going on? Well, what's happened there is in a sense, a separation of your personalities, and that gets amplified when your metabolism is off. And so one of the biggest things that our clients talk to us about is, I'm like properly happy for the first time in a lot of years. And I think that's huge, because weird thing is, happier people make better food decisions. So it's a very positive feedback loop.
It is so positive. And once you're on there and you're feeling so good, you probably felt amazing in that two-piece bathing suit. Like, nothing's better than that feeling. It makes you happy, or just feeling alive like that. And then you want more and more of that. That's so good. And you're segueing so perfectly for me, because I was going to ask you about the seasons of food. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is a very, very important topic and completely misunderstood. So,
Okay.
There was a bit of a fad a while back that, we should do seasonal eating. And, it's a good fad, but the trouble is that it fails to understand one of the most important things about diet and nutrition. And that is that every species on Earth has an evolved diet, an evolved requirement for nutrients, and an evolved capacity for processing the food that gives that nutrient. So as an example, my desk is made out of wood, which means that it has vitamins and minerals in it, but I don't have an evolved relationship with wood. I'm not a beaver, I'm not a termite. So you could blend the wood up in the Vitamix for me, but that doesn't mean those vitamins are available to me. So when we really begin to understand that, then there's another level to it. And it's not just simply a way of determining what we should be eating. It's also a way of determining when we should be eating it. And so as an example, our ancestors, these days, it's all very popular to hate on sugar. Sugar's bad, fruit's evil, you should never eat it. Okay, hold on a second now. We know very well that our ancestors had a seasonal relationship with fruits and root vegetables and carbohydrates. So that's a ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
But what isn't a ridiculous idea is to recognize that our ancestors had seasonal availability of those things. And that is a very important thing. So one of the, I think, pioneering areas that we've developed at WildFit and at Diabetes Reversal Institute is the understanding that humans evolved the ability to survive seasonal fluctuation, but also to utilize each season for some purpose. And so our bodies, if you imagine squirrels and chipmunks and beavers and bears, we know that as they're heading into the winter months, they start fattening up. Now, they don't do that on purpose. They don't have an app that tells them time to fatten up, but because they're eating autumn available foods, which is largely carbohydrate foods, their body receives a message from that says, hey, if you're eating these foods, winter must be coming just around the corner. Therefore, we should slow down your metabolism, boost your cravings, increase your appetite, and store all this extra energy as fat so we can get through the winter. And that was a life-saving evolution of the human body to be able to do that. Like, if your great-great-great-great-grandmother couldn't do that, you wouldn't be here. But fast forward to today, when there's no seasonal restriction on our access to carbohydrate foods, well, you can look around the streets and see the problem.
Yes. So fascinating. So fascinating. Yeah, I sense it anyway, that I want the fruits in the summer, that things like that. And then when the, fall comes and not around the holidays, because I know, think about how the holidays have changed, everything's around food, there's around, chocolate for Easter and pie for and for Thanksgiving and just cookies for Christmas. Like it's around us everywhere, and it just feeds into that, right? It's hard to resist it when it's everywhere. But to think about that it's actually okay to gain a few at this time.
Normal.
It's totally normal to do that.
I think everybody should gain 3 pounds a year every year, but they should also release that 3 pounds later in the year, every year.
Good. That's good. This is a total side note. What's your feeling about alcohol?
Well,
personally,
I haven't had alcohol for 35 years or something. I just stopped one day. I didn't like it. I never really drank it much anyway. I just didn't like the experience of it. I want to say that some people then assume, therefore, that I'm anti-alcohol. Not at all. My girlfriend loves a good glass of champagne or a Prosecco from time to time, and I have no issue with that. No judgment at all. I think that like any substance, the question has to be every single time: am I using it or is it using me? And once alcohol, isn't a choice anymore. When if you come home from work and you have to have a glass of wine just to shake off the day, then it's become a drug at that stage. And I think that to the degree to which it controls your behavior, and this is true of any drug, including caffeine for that matter, if you need a coffee to feel human, then you probably need to reevaluate your relationship with coffee. If you can have coffee on occasion and it's great, well, that's different. So I think it's not so much about the substance, it's about an individual person's relationship with the substance.
Yeah. And then how do you feel about people living with this post-diabetic lifestyle in terms of eating and living when they're super busy? How do they work it in?
I have really great news about that. Like, there's just some math to consider here. Is that, okay, let's go back to the 1970s. In the 1970s, you had to be over 40 to become a type 2 diabetic. It basically wasn't an available condition under 40. It just didn't happen. It was, in fact, back then it was called adult onset diabetes. Done. Now, that's changed because the food supply has changed. The introduction of prolific sugar in everything, seed oils in everything. Like, we're at this place now where the food industry has changed so much that now we have teenagers that are in pre-diabetic condition, and it's happening much more quickly. But let's say this. Let's say it takes 10 years of a disastrous food industry to create diabetes in somebody. It takes 10 years. We know that in the vast majority of cases, it's reversible in 6 to 8 weeks, 9 weeks. It's reversible. Now, hold on a second now. If it's reversible that quickly and it takes that long to create it, what that suggests is that the body is resisting that process the entire time. And it also shows us that you only actually have to turn the scales back in your body's favor gently before your body will begin to recover. Now, so what that means is that, yes, to reverse the condition, you need to be a bit radical. You need to make some pretty big changes for a short period of time, and you can reverse the condition quickly by doing that. You can undo 10 years of bad habits with 6 weeks of good habits. It can be done. We do it all the day, all the time. Now, though, we move to your question, which is the maintenance of it. Does somebody have to live a restricted and difficult life? Do they have to give up their favorite foods forever? Do they have to give up alcohol? It's sugar after all, right? No. Once somebody has reversed the condition back to, say, pre-diabetic condition, which we would call post-diabetic, or they've gone fully post-diabetic where they're out of the diabetic range entirely, what we would ask them to do is to remember that their body can do diabetes. It did it once before. In other words, they have a predisposition to potentially developing it again. Maybe they have some genetic predisposition. Maybe there's some epigenetic expression that they haven't had. The point is that they've shown the propensity for it. Therefore, they need to be a little bit more careful than the average person. And if they're a little bit more careful than the average person, then they can avoid going back to that place, which means, of course, they can continue to have some of their favorite foods. But what they can't do is live the way they used to live entirely. And by the way, by the time they've gone through the process, they won't want to anyway.
Yeah. Once you start, eating well and making the change and feeling so good, when you don't eat well, you feel it immediately. At least I do. I feel that, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I think everything in moderation, even that's, overstated, but it's kind of true. Not, everything in moderation. Um, that's so good. All right. So, I mean, what would you like to see happen, Eric? I mean, what's your mission?
Largely to end suffering. And what I mean by that is that diabetes is swept under the rug in many cases, and it's probably the single most important disease in the world right now. In fact, the other one that I think is also unbelievably important is Alzheimer's disease, which I think very soon will be classified as type 3 diabetes anyway. The fact is that the very things you can do to protect yourself from diabetes also can protect your mind. And so what I want to suggest is that we have to work at this from both ends of the spectrum. We have to work with the consumers directly, because if you can change consumer buying patterns, then manufacturers will respond. They will. We've seen it. If people start preferentially buying things that don't have disgusting refined corn syrup in them, then people will stop putting disgusting refined corn syrup in their food. So we have to work at the consumer end, helping people take responsibility for their health. But I think at the other side, we have to start looking at food regulation and the way healthcare is provided. When you have a country that has, say, for example, universal healthcare, which I think is a wonderful ideal. It's a wonderful ideal to think that everybody should have the right to healthcare. But the challenge is, would you buy car insurance from a company that sold car insurance to that 16-year-old boy with 4 speeding tickets and 2 car accidents and charge the same rate that you pay? No. You would want your car insurance to reflect what kind of a driver you are. And I think that what people really want nowadays is they want a healthcare plan that reflects the kind of health that they're representing. And I'm not talking about the accidental things. I'm talking about lifestyle conditions here. I don't necessarily want to pay in to a universal or a health insurance package when somebody else who's, say, accumulated an extra 150 pounds and they're now diabetic and they're going to be incredibly expensive. Now, again, I don't think it's their fault. Therefore, the funding for that type of healthcare has to be looked at in a very interesting way. And I suspect it has to be looked at by involving the very manufacturers that created the problem in the first place. So what do I want to see? I want to see people not having this optional disease, because it's optional. You don't have to have it. You can prevent it. You can reverse it in the vast majority of cases. So I want to support everybody in making that happen. I also want to support doctors in understanding it, because the truth of it is that most of the doctors that we've run into, and that's a lot, are not taught that diabetes is an optional reversible condition. They're taught that it's a chronic disease that must be managed. And some of them have been taught, well, it's a chronic disease that has to be managed unless the client's willing to make some changes. And generally the client's not willing to make the changes. So therefore, here's the medication. And what we want to do is empower doctors to be able to support people in really making that change. It's reversible. It doesn't have to be this way. And listen, by the way, quite aside from the reality of diabetes, circulatory problems, loss of eyesight, limb amputation, it's bad. It's not good, right? It's also a massive risk factor for the development of cancer and heart disease, the top killers in the Western world. But then here's another thing. Pandemics. What we saw throughout the COVID pandemic was that people that were carrying excessive weight and were type 2 diabetic were far more susceptible to catching and spreading the condition. And so there's a social responsibility aspect of this, is that we need to change public health so that the public is healthier. We were all told, like, you have to go and have this medical, treatment, or you have to wear this mask for the public good. I get that argument, for the public good. But therefore, don't we also have to improve the baseline health of our citizens for the public good? I think so.
Yeah. This is so powerful and so true. Oof, that is great. All right. I want to ask you just a couple more questions, and then we'll get some information. We'll show your book, where people can buy your book and follow you and get more information about your incredible work, Eric. The first question is a question I ask all my guests, and I'm surprising you with this one. So I want to know, how do you live the I Have Today way, which is intentionally in the present moment? And if you could start it with, I have today too.
I have today too. I'm not really sure how to do that in a sentence. I I think of intention as being one of the most important things that we can do. So that means that I have today to improve the quality of my own life. I have today to share my experience and wisdom with people to help them do the same thing. And I definitely have today to make sure that the people around me know that I love them and that I care about them and that I will always be there for them.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. And you hit all the things that matter most, right? I love that. And then what do you wish more people knew?
That everything's going to be okay. You know, I think about this a lot because, you know, the old expression, a coward dies 1,000 deaths and the brave man only one. And everybody knows this expression, but I don't think they ever think it through. And what it really means is that the coward is sitting there imagining all these deaths. And with each imagination, the coward is communicating to his or her nervous system those deaths actually happening. You know, if you imagine the worst possible outcome, you create the neurotransmitters in your body for that worst possible outcome. If you're sitting in your office sure that your boss is going to fire you, then you spend that hour being fired. And then you go into the office and find out they weren't firing you at all, but you still got fired again and again and again in your head. And so when you think about the scope of your life, and I think a lot of people, you know, they don't get this until they cross into their 50s. And even then, maybe they don't. But if you look back at the span of your life, and you look at all the things that you worried about and imagined going badly, first of all, how many of them ever happened? Basically, almost none comparatively. And secondly, even the ones that didn't they serve you? I mean, in the end, didn't getting fired from that job give you the next thing? Didn't get dumped by that relationship set up the next most amazing one? Like, so what I would say, that what I wish everybody knew is that everything's going to be okay, and that this is a game, and your job, the scoring of it is how much enjoyment you get. And if you can learn to enjoy everything, even the tough stuff, then you have found the fountain of youth, and you've found the Holy Grail, and you've found the keys to the kingdom.
The keys to life is totally that. It's so true. Well said. That was beautiful. All right, team, let's show a copy of the book. Here it is, Post-Diabetic, an easy to follow 9-week guide to reversing prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. We are going to have a link in the description area for you to get your copy. Go get a copy. In fact, you know me, I always say, get one for you and then get at least 2 more to share with others. You know, empower the people in your lives. My children know they get books and experiences from me. That's all they get. So, and this is one of them. It's so great. And by the way, Eric, the recipes in here are really, really good. I mean, these sound so delicious. Avocado and bacon doodles. I absolutely love this. I've already made baked salmon pouches because I love salmon, but they're delicious. You know, there's.
That's such an important point you're bringing up. Like, so many people think that to be healthy is to be boring. Absolutely not. Mostly. No, and the way most people are eating these days is with all these like nuclear sugars and nuclear flavors, and you know what I'm like. And so their taste buds are diminished, and therefore they need the next big thing. Whereas once you have a really good relationship with food, you'll be amazed at how yummy it really can be. Far yummier than any fake packaged garbage that you pick up in the processed food section.
So true. So true. Well, it's such a fantastic book, and I so appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, Ruben, is that how you say his name?
Ruben Ruiz.
Ruben Ruiz. Beautiful. It's a beautiful book. All right. And then how can people find out more information about you? We have the link up there. You want them to
postdiabetes.com. You can find information about the book and about the Diabetes Reversal Institute there. Absolutely. And I will say one thing about that if I could have retitled the book now, I might have added one thing: an easy to follow 9-week guide to preventing and reversing. And the reason I say that is that a lot of people won't buy the book because they go, well, I'm not diabetic. And then, well, you know what? The vast majority of people in America are on the diabetic spectrum. That's how it is these days. The vast majority of people are in the categories of pre-diabetic, pre-diabetic, or diabetic. It's just, you know, something like 7 out of 10. And most of them don't even know. So I would suggest that this is a prophylactic book. You want to read it to not end up in that situation. And as Diane said, do buy multiple copies, but one of them should go to your doctor. Absolutely. Sure. In terms of reaching me, you can find me on Instagram, my name at Instagram. I manage my account personally. And so if you ask me questions, I do my level best to answer everybody that I can.
That's so fantastic. Well, you're such a beautiful light in this world. So well accomplished, Eric. I love your passion, your heart, the way you present yourself in the world. And I'm so grateful that you came to see us here at I Have Today and empower our audience. And so your book is officially in our library now, too. So
Good
for
deal.
anybody
Thank
who
you.
goes there. Yeah. Is there any last parting words you'd like to share with us?
I'm just going to say this, that our emotions have been hijacked by the food industry, just like our holidays. I mean, I make this joke, but there are many people who feel like they can't get through Easter without chocolate. And I've read that part of the Bible, and there's no reference to chocolate. The fact is that food manufacturers have hijacked our holidays, they've hijacked our emotional states. And then the diet industry has come along and damaged our self-esteem and made us feel like we can't do it anymore. What I want everybody to know is that it absolutely is fixable, and it's way easier than you think. If you go through it as a week by week by week process, carefully guided, you can have an entirely new relationship with food, new taste buds, no cravings, where your body, a lot of people say you should just listen to your body. And I'd say most of us can't. Most of our bodies have been hijacked by the food industry, so you can't listen to it. But by the time you're done going through one of our programs, you will once again be able to listen to your body. It will tell you the truth.
That's so powerful. It's so good.
And Diane, there is one other thing, by the way.
Yeah, we have time. We're good on time. Go ahead.
I forgot one other thing is that in the first edition of this book, so anybody listening to this podcast, say in the first 6 months after the book was released, right? In the first edition of the book, inside the book, there's a QR code that gives you free access to the Diabetes Reversal Institute's program to go through this. So you can read the book and go through the 9 weeks, but there's a video-based multimedia program that's normally $247, it's a self-study course, and you get to do that completely for free from the QR code inside the book. Wow. Only in the first edition. So you have to have a first edition version of the book, but that's all that's available at the moment. So as long as you're not listening to this podcast in 2026, you're fine.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my God. Huge bonus. All right, team, make a note of that. So that's in the show notes too. Huge value. All right, come on. How much? 247?
247 or 297.
Yeah. $250, $300 course you get for the investment of the book. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. Well, I had a lot of fun with you today, and I'm so grateful that we got to meet each other, and now we know each other, and your work is powerful. Thanks so much for empowering our audience, because this is what we are all about. We want people intentionally creating their empowered, inspired lives. We want them taking inspired action in their lives. We do not want them to be a victim of the circumstances or their history or anything like that. Like, it's all about, I have today to live this way. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. All right. Take care. Bye. Fantastic interview. Amazing man doing incredible work in the world. Everybody get this book. And like he said, it's not just if you're presenting with pre-diabetes or type 2, it's before. So, I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I've got a few clients that I'm going to send this book to who are incredible, amazing women, and they're on health journeys, and I'm going to send this to them too. So think about the loved ones in your lives who you can support with that. All right, before we get ready to do our mantra meditation, I just want to extend an invitation to you that if you like this show and you like the format of the show and the way the show rolls, then you'd like to learn how to have your own platform, to have your own show, then I invite you to book a strategy call with me, a breakthrough session on how you can launch your own TV show and take your brilliant work out into the world. Interview amazing guests like we get to interview here, and spread your mission and your message on a global level. And so you can go to team. If you have that link up there, that would be great. There it is. It's tvstarhost.com/apply, tvstarhost.com/apply. And what you'll see when you get there is you get to book a 30-minute breakthrough session with me where we'll go through your business, your idea, your brand, everything, and I will help you design your TV show. So go to that link and schedule your free call with me. All right. Thank you. Okay. We have just a few minutes left and I want to get us grounded as we end this incredible episode. All right. So if you're driving, obviously just listen. For everybody else, stop what you're doing. Don't multitask. Really just pause for 2 minutes with me. Okay. Put your feet flat on the floor. Put your hands on your lap. And we're going to do our breath and we're going to breathe in for the count of 4 through our nose. We're going to pull it down to our tailbone, root chakra. We're going to count to 8. And as we count to 8 in our head, we are going to send energy to all 8 of our chakras, from our root, sacral, solar plex, heart, throat, third eye, crown, and soul star, a very important one, about a foot above your head. Send all that energy there, healing energy that heals your body, and then blow it out for 8 seconds like you're blowing out birthday candles, okay? We're going to do that 2 times. Just keep your eyes closed and then listen to my words. So here we go. Close your eyes. Breathe in for 4 through your nose. Hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Blow it out for 8. Do it one more time. Breathe in for 4. And hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Blow it out for 8. I have today to love my life. Something really good is going to happen to me today. I can feel it. Miracles big and small. I notice them all. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. I have today to improve my health with manageable steps. I am not going to do cockamamie crazy diets, yo-yo dieting anymore. I'm not going to live in a life of deprivation. I'm going to use smart, strategic steps and actions to empower myself, to make those manageable changes, to live a better, healthier life each and every day, starting right now, today. And these are going to be moment by moment by moment decisions that I make. I can choose health and wellness in each moment. I can choose to be aware. I can choose to be an advocate for myself. I can realize that it's not my fault, but I am the one who's in control. I'm going to learn to listen to my body again. I now know that I can get rid of 10 years of bad habits in just 6 weeks of good habits. And that is so empowering. And that if I just do this, I can end the suffering in my mind, the suffering in my body. And that I'm on the journey to being post-diabetic. I'm on my way to eliminating that word out of my life. I'm on my way to living healthier and more empowered. And I'm going to start. I'm going to get this book today. I'm going to empower myself. And from this day on, each and every day, I'm going to know I am the one in the power, and I choose me, and I choose health and well-being. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I want to thank my guest, Eric Edmeades, for being here. Again, his book is Post-Diabetic. We're going to have it in the show notes. Get copies of it at the site. And we will see you next time on I Have Today. Make sure you're following me at Diane Forster Official and DianeForster.com. Take care. Bye-bye.